Hello, everybody. My name is Brooks Elms. This is an open house for Answer the Call, my one-to-one mentorship program for screenwriters. I'm so proud of it, and I'm so proud of the people that have been involved in the program already, and excited to find new people who are a great fit for this program. So we're talking about what this program has done for people who are already in it, what it can do for new people, and some of the principles that even if this particular program isn't the best fit for you, how you can use some of these principles in your own life in different ways for wherever you're at on this journey.
I don't know if I'm first, but
Yeah, you. Yeah. How you doing?
cool. Hi, good. How are you? My name is Abishan.
Abishan, cool. I like that name.
Nice to meet you guys. So my question is like, I don't know if this is appropriate for me to ask, but how would you like look at mental health within the industry as a writer and also as a filmmaker?
By mental health, you're talking about people that have some sort of challenges related to psychology stuff that comes up for them, or you're talking about general mindset stuff like
I guess it would be like certain insecurities, doubts, and stuff like that, and pretty much.
Yeah, got it. That's a great question. Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge part of the game. It's the number one reason people quit. It's the number one reason people get so freaked out about it. It's one of the things I intend for my program to do is give people lots of different strategies on how to keep the drama on the page and not in the process, right? That's my take on it, but I'd love to get somebody that's in my program to hear your take. Because one of the things I really loved about having a couple of my current mentees here is it's one thing for me to blab about it, but like, let's see if they actually are getting what I tried to teach them. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Jess, you have a thought?
Yeah. If it wasn't for my mental health issues that started when I was 10 years old, that was like 30 years ago, writing has been my therapy my entire life. And if it wasn't for Brooks, I wouldn't have learned how to channel that darkness into my light, which my light is what I deserve, which is my dream. And Brooks really did just, I don't know, the whole program, it really just goes full circle.
Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate that. And you can mute your mic when you're off. It would be awesome, Jeff. Thanks. So yeah, one of the things that I love that Jess touched on is that to write great screenplays, you have to be able to go to a deep place, and it's hard to go to deep places if you don't have real support. And you don't have either a support from a mentor like me or a group of people that's okay with deep emotion, deeply felt. And in Jess's case, it was heavy material. So we needed to make sure that the space was really safe and that you could go in there and see it clearly and then write it beautifully so that it was breaking other people's hearts too, and then building them up. So yeah, that's absolutely a hallmark of this program. That's kind of hard to replicate unless you have really good friends that can go to some deep, dark places. Even if you're doing light comedy, you need to be able to feel safe. I have a friend who writes on TV comedies, and man, I've just the way he talks about the writer's room and how open they are and how safe those spaces are. Any great creative places, either TV shows or whatever, has really high level emotional intelligence, and you have to feel really safe there. So that's absolutely something that's very intentional in our program, and I'm thrilled that Jess got that. Shai, you want to?
Yeah, just to kind of back up that point that you were just saying. For me, a lot of the experience was, I came in wondering, needing validation, like that I am actually a writer, that I can actually do this, that, it's not just that I think I want to do it. And I never had anybody evaluate me that I trusted. If my friends looked at it, I'd be like, oh, well, that's my friend. Of course, they're going to say something nice, and if I put it in a contest, that only gave me so much. And even before the validation came, there was a shift in mindset in terms of the actual need for validation. And that was a big thing. It was no longer about, I need someone to tell me that I'm good. Just being a part of this and getting the process and going through with it was the validation itself, which was, you know, a bit weird for me at first, and then there was an adjustment, and then the group itself, and just, you know, every time for the first few weeks that I would join the group, my initial thought was like, oh, here it is. Here's where I start to feel inferior to other people that are here. And it never happened. Everybody there was welcoming. Everybody there made me feel like I'm just as much of a writer as anybody else. And all of a sudden, I realized that I had been validated without like an official invitation, you know, here's your validation. Like it just kind of happened. And it's really helped my confidence as a writer, you know, immensely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Shai, for sharing that. I mean, it's really important, this idea of we need to know where we stack up in the industry, right? Do we need to get better at this or that or the other thing? But this idea of our identity and whether we deserve it and validation, that's an inside job. We need to be really good at honoring ourselves and just appreciating ourselves just because we exist, because we're a human being. And that takes practice. And that's absolutely something else we do in the program. It's a lot of, validation is kind of a weird word. It's just a lot of just acknowledgement of being fellow humans and that we're all on the path. And that me too, I've had significant success in my career, but I'm on the path too, you know, and I practice a lot of these habits really well, a lot of the time, but not all the time. Bersh Lee, what do you got, my friend?
Hi, I was wondering about your early beginnings as a screenwriter. What were some of the challenges you faced? I graduated college in 2018. I did some on-set stuff while I was in school, a little bit after school, but I've kind of hit a rut, and I'm working on my second script now. I'm hoping that when I'm done, I'll be able to get some representation, but it would be great if I could be on set or even get a job with a major media company to help me make some of these connections in the meantime. So I was just curious about what your beginnings were like.
Cool. Thanks for asking that question. I mean, my beginnings is a little bit different because I started out when I went to NYU Film School, and then the summer after I left NYU, I made a feature film. So I was in it making movies right away, my own movies. I didn't really pivot to focusing all on screenwriting till about maybe 15 years ago. And then got signed by UTA and was selling scripts. And then, so I had two sort of different, sort of significant it's a little bit different than the way I was doing. I was always in the industry more or less in one way or the other, but like, it's different. I mean, what I think I heard from you is, you finished film school a couple years ago. You're on your second script. You're wanting to be more involved and more active. So, where do you live, personally?
I'm in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Okay. So one challenge for somebody that's not in like LA or New York or even maybe Austin is, there's fewer opportunities to be able to see other industry people in person. There are, at film festivals and things like that. Sometimes there'll be a movie that comes to town and maybe might be able to get a job there. But for the most part, you're then focused on online connections. But lucky for you, there's tons of online connections, right? I would say half the people in our group are actually not in LA or New York, and the other half are, right? And so, it doesn't really matter because you can really just the way you connect to people that are there and online. So if you just have to raise your social media game and connect to people, get into real conversations with real people online, and get your socializing and shop talk and industry there's a brotherhood and a fellowship in the business that's hard. It's essential. You have to find your own people and your own circles. This program gives you a really amazing world-class one, but like there's other ways to get it on your own. Go to festivals, meet people, go to Coverfly X and exchange notes with other people for free, and start to get to people that are like, oh man, this person really loves my script. I love their, you know what I mean? Start to build your there's writers groups. There's all sorts of different ways to do it. The way I bring is a real premium option. But there's other ways to do it, and it's essential that you do something. because without that social interaction, it's really hard. It makes it really, really difficult. I shall go to my questions. So number one, one of the main questions I get most often is, let me pull it up here. It's what do I write next? How do I know what I should be writing next? So instead of me answering that question, Jordan, you want to take a crack at answering that question? Based on what we did here and what you think is a good way to approach that question, how would you answer it?
I think more than ever, I'm understanding that wherever you go, it doesn't really even matter what the genre is or what the surface details of the story are. You definitely got to draw from within. So it has to be anchored in some kind of personal experience or some kind of an issue that you're personally invested in or passionate about. It can't be too personal, because then that can be a real struggle to keep the kind of perspective that you need to be critical of your own work. If you love something a little too much, then it might be hard to edit it and change it to make it work for other audiences. You have to be careful about not writing just for yourself. But I think it's really, really important to draw on your own personal experience and go after things that you're struggling with, that you find difficult or challenging, and then find a way to build a story around that. That'll keep it really, really interesting for you. And you can explore yourself while you're exploring the story and building out the narrative. But yeah, it's got to come from you, I think, is the shorthand.
Awesome. That's great. What's the other main thing I would that we generally do in this program, along with making it personal, is the most important. So I love that you brought that up. But Jess, you want to address what I see if you have what I have in mind?
With your own superpower, like whatever even prompted you into writing. Like for me, it's something different than everybody else, but for me, it's dark drama. I mean, it's just dark personal drama. It's visceral humanity at its finest and at its worst, and that would be my superpower. But with Brooks's deal is you identify that superpower, you get confident with that superpower, you grow with what you are good at.
Excellent. So let me concretize what I heard from Jess, and I appreciate you sharing that. So Jordan was talking about allowing it to be personal, and Jess was talking about sort of allowing it to be personal, but also your superpower, your gifts as a writer. The other thing that I was talking about is we on the very first session, we talk about your favorite movies of all time, your favorite movies, your favorite TV shows. And from there, we get a sense of what you're relating to, what's already out there in the world. And then based on your favorite material, then you start riffing on what are some of these themes that are recurring in my favorite material? What are the conflicts that I'm drawn to? What are the genres? And then from there, it really narrows down the field on what's the most interesting sort of project you could do next that's so singular to you. Because when you talk about, if you guys think about this, if let's say you're 30 years old and you've had the opportunity to watch, I don't know, 100,000 different titles in terms of TV shows, movies from the whole history of movies and TV. And of those, let's say 100,000 titles, you've actually watched 3,000, 2,000 or whatever, right? And of the, let's say 2,000 that you've actually watched, you pick 10 shows and 10 films. That is such a specific list that speaks to your uniqueness. And once you identify that and what your sensibility is, and from there you use that as sort of parameters and inspiration to pick your next project, you are so much further along the lines in regard to picking something that's really going to make an impact on the industry. Jordan, what do you got?
Yeah, I thought I could speak to that because I'm pretty recent. Recently, having gone through that with you, I thought it was fascinating. That particular section of the the program was really, really enlightening. It does require people to have a little bit of bravery, because you need to be able to look inward at yourself and see what it is that your favorites are all about. But like Brooks was saying, we listed, favorite TV shows, favorite movies, and then he also asks you to kind of assemble a short list of ideas that you've got, either scripts that you've half written, or just maybe a title that you've got, or a loose concept for a script. And then the conversation gets really interesting in that he was able to help me see how the dots connected. And I was able to see the kind of subject matter that I tend to be drawn to, the type of tone that the pieces that I find most attractive are consistently, and then go through this list of ideas that I had and pick out one that fit really nicely with all of these things that I'm drawn to naturally in my favorites lists. And the concept that I'm working on right now, which I'm really, really thrilled with, was originally supposed to be a goofy comedy, like a Will Ferrell movie. That was the setup that I had originally dreamed it as. And in very short order, we were able to take the basic setup for the story and transform it into something very grounded. Taylor Sheridan is one of my favorite writers. I love everything he does. He did Hell or High Water and Wind River. And I've now been able to move that concept into that space. And it married up beautifully, and I was really inspired by the whole thing, and I've been able to lean into that and love writing it ever since. And it feels like mine now. It doesn't feel like something that I'm reaching out at and trying to copy. It feels very, very personal to me. And I feel like I'm creating, a unique voice, which is going to be really important to anybody that wants to find success. So yeah, 100%. That first meeting with Brooks was really, really valuable in identifying who I am as a writer and what my sensibilities are all about.
I love that you shared that, Jordan, because it really is a fundamental choice that a lot of people don't realize. It's hard to know, right? Unless you have somebody who's really focused on your uniqueness and your gifts and your personal stuff, it's hard. So in this case, for you, Jordan, if you didn't really meet me, you might have done that project in a different direction, and it probably would have been good in some ways, but I don't think it would have been as deep. And okay, maybe it wouldn't have been, but the point is, and very quickly, I can show you based on my own experience, my own personal life of written, 35 screenplays, selling a bunch and all that stuff, but also helping so many writers how to really hone in on your singular superpower right from the very beginning, and how it all comes together. And I knew with your project, there were some interesting elements there, but you kept talking about how much you liked Tyler Sheridan. And I was like, well, why not both of those things at once? And when I did, I saw a light go on in you, and it was like, yeah. And we just been off to the races since then. It's a really great project for you. And I feel sad for the alternate reality Jordan Morris that didn't get to go on this journey, because it's like nobody could write this story that you're writing now. It's so amazing. And I happen to be a really big fan of this genre. So as a fan, I'm sad about that alternate reality version that didn't get to write this, because it's going to be amazing. Really, really amazing. Abishan, you got a question?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Jordan. So you brought that great method of trying to pick out your top 10 best movies and TV shows, and you talked about how you learned so much about yourself from the way you like tone, the way you like how something's written, the way the genre and stuff like that. How long did you have to sit with that, or how long did you sit with that in order to kind of get a grasp of understanding what you genuinely like have clarity on what you genuinely like?
It didn't take long. I like all kinds of movies. I've got a really eclectic taste. So I like really bizarre stuff. I love Korean thrillers. I love Japanese horror. I love Russian and French movies. So I'm all over the map. And my list, I tried to boil down to something that was coherent. But it was while talking with Brooks that I got to, there's something I'd love to hear Brooks talk about after I'm done shutting up too. But I'll spit this out. It was about recognizing the difference between being moving towards things that are just entertaining and that I like, and things that I find really fascinating and that are more challenging, that that feel more personal to me. And that's the way this current script feels for me now. It feels like mine, instead of just saying, oh, I get a riot when I go see a good Will Ferrell movie. There haven't been many. But when I go see a good one, I have a great time, and it's super fun for me. So maybe I'd like to try to write one of those. But that's got nothing to do with me and whatever skill sets that I bring to it or whatever kind of creative voice that comes naturally to me. That's me trying to copy something else that exists out there. But this conversation was really eye-opening, and it didn't take long. It was within an hour where suddenly this light came on. I was like, oh yeah, all of these ingredients are about me personally. And if I assemble them in the right way and I drop them into the right genre, suddenly I have something that's unique that literally no other writer can write. And that's not me saying that I'm a better writer than anybody else. That's speaking to my voice as a writer. And I think that's what's going to be really critical for anybody who wants to find success. So you've got to look inward. I mean, take all of the films and TV shows that you've seen, let them influence you, but siphon them in the way that I'm saying, siphon out the stuff that's just pure entertainment and distraction, and try to grasp onto the things that really kind of poke you in a challenging way that kind of tie into these experiences that you've had in your own life. Obviously, Jess has had a very unique experience in her life, and she's writing to that. And I've had unique experiences, and I'm writing to that as well, inspired by other filmmakers, but very personal to me. And that's what I think has been the biggest transformation in me. And it just took one, conversation to Brooks to point me at that. Anyway, I'd love to hear Brooks kind of talk about this loose kind of concept I've got between, writing for personal entertainment and writing for personal development.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Jordan. It's definitely a significant distinction to say, what am I most absolutely sort of fascinated by versus what I kind of like. You know what I mean? Look, once you get established somewhat and you get known for something and people come to you and they're going to give you a lot of money to write something that is interesting enough, then okay, that's a discussion you want to have. But when you're writing a spec material, it's got to be something like legacy. Something like if you do this one script in the rest of your life and you die, you're proud of it and that's it. I mean, it's got to be that deep. And that's the thing, guys. In theory, you guys can do this stuff with buddies or a writer's group or whatever, but like you got to go to a really deep place in you. Or if you want the real results, if you're trying to impact an audience in a deep way and change their life in one little way, you got to find a way to be able to get into that place in you. And it's hard to do it with a typical writer's group or a buddy that likes screenplays. If you find the right mentor, you can get to that place deeply, quickly, and, stay in that flow state and really create from there. And you're extremely increasing your chances of impacting your audience. So it's not me so much, but it's the fact that I'm really good at facilitating writers to get into their deepest singular flow state so that then they can sort of serve their audience. That's what my superpower as a coach. Abhishek, what you got? Oh, you're muted.
My bad. So like you just said that the more you're able to like tap into that really deep spot, that you're able to like really impact an audience emotionally. So what if like you continually and consistently write screenplays every day and you're trying to tap into that deep spot? Can you do that consistently? Can you like keep doing that like every single day? Would that hurt your creative process? Like would that like make it better or make it like would it overwhelm you? Like I'm just curious because I love writing too and I like to write every day, but I want to get to a point where I can emotionally impact the audience when I actually film the script. So like, can I do that every day? It's basically my question.
Of course you can. Why? What I think maybe if you're talking about going to a deep place and feeling overwhelmed, maybe you're talking about some real personal stuff. That's important.
Not so much, but like you just said, like if you want to like tap in, if you want to like make a audience cry or just emotionally impact them, you kind of want to like get very deep into yourself and your inner psychology or stuff. So that's basically my question. Like if I keep doing that, would that like transform my skill set to a point where I'm just doing that automatically?
Absolutely. In fact, you have to. You know, you have to be able to do it on the regular. Because think about it, dude, when you start defining how great you are as a thought leader, and they're paying you lots and lots of money to write screenplays under pressure, under deadline, you need to be able to do it consistently. This is a professional screenwriting program. This isn't like a hobby. This is people that want to do it at the highest levels and get paid the highest amount of money to do it. So we're not effing around here. That means, yeah, you got to go to those deep places every day, and as long as it takes. And if you do it in the right way, you're not off balance. You're doing it in a way that has flow and consistency, and sustainability. And it's fun. Even if you're working on darker material, there's a lightness to it. There's a flow to it. And that flow state is essential. Personally, what do you got?
I am working on my second script now, as I said before. So by the time I'm done, I've been seeking guidance from places like Scriptreader Pro, which recommend to send query letters out to places that take unsolicited queries once you've got about 2 solid screenplays written. I was wondering about your own process acquiring representation. UTA sounds like a pretty big, popular agency, and that probably means they wouldn't take any unsolicited queries. So, how did you get connected with them?
So, yeah, the answer to specifically how I got signed by UTA is my colleague who trusted me because of our relationship. I wrote a script. He was attached to it as a producer, and he had a relationship with UTA, and he walked me in. They read the script, they loved it, and we took it out and we sold it. So, that's, you know, if you, again, you show up. I showed up in a certain way, and he thought, oh, this guy's interesting. He saw me as a thought leader, wanted to do business with me. We did business together. I wrote a script. He loved it. Took it to UTA, right? UTA said, oh, he's a thought leader. He knows something about the subject. It's on the page. You know, I'll send it out. I'll put my reputation online. I'll send it out. And then people, you know, bought the script, right? So that's how that works. My suggestion for you, first of all, if you're writing your second script, it's too early to really think about representation yet, generally speaking, I'd say personally. The better thing is figure out in general how the industry is responding. Send your script out to 10 places, 10 screenplay contests. The place you mentioned was fine. What you're looking for is out of 10 places you send it in the industry, at least 3 people are going, wow, this is great. Then you're in good shape. And then and then even then, my suggestion is to look to get into conversations with producers. Certainly not agents. Agents are really difficult to get a hold of, and even managers. There's a manager on Twitter that takes pitches from anybody. If you want to DM me, I'm happy to give you his account information. But generally speaking, producers are more accessible. And then once you get in a relationship with a producer, and this person's great, and they're gonna and they're part of your package, and they're going to buy your script, then it's much easier to get representation at that point. And if you're not getting at least 1 in 3, like 3 in 10, there's more development. So that's and most screenwriters don't realize that. They realize, oh, I finished the script. I got to page 105. I'm done. Now I want representation. It's not like that. There's just extremely large amounts of competition. You're competing against legends. Everybody that's making movies out there, there's an enormous amount of people. So you're not going to bust out a draft or 2 and then compete with professionals. You're not. I've written 35 scripts, and my new spec script, I wrote 12 drafts, 14 drafts. I had 50 different people read it, probably 7-8 rounds of feedback plus a live reading. So, and I'm great. And it took me that many times to be able to sort of dial it in. So if you look at what I can write in 2 drafts, it's amazing, but it's still not even close to done. So get in there, do your drafts, get your feedback, dial it up. Don't worry about representation. That's coming later. That answer your question, Bursley?
Yes, that was great. I was just wondering about, you said to try to connect with producers. Where would I go about doing that? I've got IMDb Pro. I haven't tried Coverfly. I don't know if that
Coverfly X will give you, the X stands for exchange. You're exchanging notes for free with peers. You read a script, they read a script, and then you kind of exchange peers that way. It's free. It's just a barter system. It's great. Coverfly in general they curate screenplay contests and make sure they're legitimate. And if you do well in one Coverfly screenplay contest, you get metrics that cross several ones. So if you did like good on 2 or 3, you'll get badges and metrics, and they show how you're standing out amongst others. So Coverfly in general is a great resource. What was the other question you had?
I was wondering how to get connected with producers.
Oh, producers. Yeah, again, once you feel like you're very confident you're delivering the goods, then you basically make a list of the people that are making your favorite movies and TV shows. And you go to IMDb Pro, you find out who they are, and then you make a list, and then you find out which of those people are on social media. Usually it's over 50%. And then you start looking at what they're posting about. Ideally, they post about something that's not even related to the business. It's about some sports team that you also like, or a charity, or whatever. And then you get into a human conversation with these people. And then at the right time, you talk about your interests as a storyteller and their interests as a producer, peer to peer, and you get into genuine conversations with them. So
isn't it extremely unlikely to get a response from a major Hollywood producer or director? I know from personal experience that I actually had a brief conversation with Brett Ratner through, he's probably not the best example right now, but through Instagram, and he had an Instagram live, and we had a genuine conversation about him looking at my latest script, and he just stopped answering my messages and hasn't gotten back to me.
Yeah, because
most people don't even look at the messages you send.
Because you weren't selling something that he was interested in. The fact that he got back to you a couple times means he was open to it. And if you blew him away with your conversation, you probably asked for too much, Bursley. You probably were hinting at, hey, will you read my script? Or hey, will you whatever? You probably asked for too much. Most beginning writers do ask for too much. Instead, you just get into a good conversation. You ask him, hey, when you wrote such and such script, in this one scene, you had these lines of dialogue. What did that mean? You ask them really interesting questions about craft, and you get into a high-level craft conversation. But again, I think you're getting ahead of yourself, buddy. My hunch is for you, I don't even know you, right? We just met each other. But my hunch is there's probably things you can do on the development side where you can raise that level of your game first. And then once you get there, it's those things tend to happen pretty organically. It's better to kind of figure out what your superpower is, what you're great at, get a lot of feedback on your work, and have them say, dude, Bursley, you are amazing at this, this, and that. And then from there, then you sort of circle out and you start meeting people that also love that sort of thing that you're great at. Yeah.
All right, just one more question before you move forward. I was wondering about graduate school. I've been planning on applying to graduate school this year to attend next year. I know you said you went to NYU. I got rejected last year. I was hoping I could get in this year.
What do you want to study at grad school?
Well, screenwriting direction specifically at NYU, film and television.
Don't do it, dude. Don't do it. You're wasting your money. Unless money's not an issue for you. If you have like tons of money and it doesn't matter, great. Go to AFI. It's the best. Second best is probably for screenwriting USC. Third best is NYU. And then the rest, you know, some are okay, some aren't. But that's only if money isn't an issue. If like you're plenty of money, you don't care, fine. If you're going to take out debt to go to an MFA program, don't do it, dude. Don't do it. You're absolutely, you can't do anything with an MFA degree. What only matters is, can you actually write screenplays? And if you can, they don't care whether you have a degree or not. You're totally wasting your money. If it's a less expensive program or whatever, you know, that can be somewhat cost effective, community college, but like, you want to be in a program where there's killers, where there's people who are really, really good at it. And you will get those people at those programs, but it's not worth, you know what they cost? NYU costs $30,000 a semester, and they want you for the MFA program, and they want you to go to 4 semesters. USC is $40,000 a semester. AFI is $50,000 a semester, dude. I mean, again, if you have that sort of money, it's great. Those programs are great. They're just way, way, way overpriced. So there's lots of better ways of finding your people and finding a really good community that that really makes a lot more sense. That's in my view. I mean, get other perspectives, but I feel emphatic about that it's I think it's awful. I think they're taking your money and they're not giving you real value.
Why would you say that you went to NYU? Do you feel like it didn't
Well,
help you as much as you'd hope?
I
You seem
think-
pretty successful.
So I had the money at the time. I inherited some money and I spent it all, and I was happy to spend it, so that was fine, right? B, it was undergrad, so you can kind of make an argument that undergrad has a little more value than an MFA program, right? Because some people, they shouldn't, but some people think if you have a BFA, you're more employable, whatever. I think it's BS. But C, no, it was way overrated. I loved NYU. I had a good experience. Again, I had the money, so it didn't matter, but way overrated. At that time, I spent a lot of money on it, and it was not at all the value it had. And frankly, dude, half the people there were amateurs. They weren't serious. They were people that were like messing around, not even figuring out. They were totally wasting their money. So don't do it. Find something that's more cost effective. You know, my program is probably the best bang for the buck on the planet, but UCLA is a pretty good in terms of efficiency. If money's not an issue, then those programs are great. But if you don't go into debt for those things, you're burdening yourself. And you can't do anything with an MFA degree. You can't do anything other than teach other MFA programs, and even those jobs are hard to get. So don't do it. That's my strong opinion. Okay, we're gonna wrap up in the next probably 5 minutes. Abhishan, what do you got?
So, so my question is, because we're talking about screenwriting so much, like I'm curious to know, and it's been on my mind for a while, like, should you also be practicing writing for television and teleplay? I don't know, let's just say you just get an opportunity one day in the future and you want to be prepared for that moment. Like, should you still be writing for television, or does it translate? Is it even worth it?
Yeah, so it's there's no difference. There's no difference. What you're really talking about is hero goal conflict. And the difference is it hero goal conflict in a 90-minute adventure, or hero goal conflict in a episodic, like a police detective has a case of the week, or hero goal conflict in like Stranger Things, that's like 10 episodes that's sort of stretched out. 95% of it's the same thing. I would say most of the people in this group, they're writing both. It's they have both already, or they're writing both. It's totally fluid. So it really doesn't matter. It matters when you have the idea and you're like, oh, this is a show, or no, this is a movie. But like there are subtle differences about the craft and the format and stuff like that, but they're irrelevant. Just learn how to hold people's attention, and learn how to elicit emotion in people. That's what matters. And if you learn to do that, that's applicable as a director, as a writer of TV, of film, or whatever. That's all, it's easily transferable once you can do the hard thing, or not the hard thing, but the rare thing, which is elicit emotion at a world-class level. That's what you focus on.
Sorry, I just have one more question just about directing in general. Like, what's the one thing that you commonly notice in certain directors that apply on a universal level that even emerging or younger directors can learn from and apply in their craft?
It's the same thing. Quality over quantity. 98% of directors, myself included, I made the same mistake, go for quantity too fast. 30 seconds, my friend, right? Do a 30-second clip on your phone, one shot. That's amazing. That's eliciting amazing emotion. That is way more valuable than some 15-minute film that you spend 20, 30, 40,000 bucks on. That it's going to play at a couple film festivals and nobody's going to see. Do a 30-second shot on your phone tonight. Put it on social media and say, what's great about this? Oh, nothing's great? Great. Do another one tomorrow. Make it a little bit better. Make it a little bit better. Do 10 versions of that 30-second shot. Now you're developing your skill. You see how that feedback loop works? And that's what we get at this program. I give you a feedback loop that's world-class quality, bump, 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 so you get to develop as soon as possible. And it's like that with filmmaking or writing. But what people don't get is they do quantity more than quality, and then they're just kind of spinning their wheels. So in whatever direction you go into, Get a good feedback loop. Get feedback as soon as possible to find out how it's landing. It's not good enough if you just like it. That's fine if you don't want to be a professional, but if you want to be professional, it's all about how it's landing for other people. So get that feedback loop going. Short content, get it out there. For screenwriting, you can do one scene. It's hard to get people to read a 100-page script, right? But then just get your friends to read one scene. You know, to Bursley's point, if he he was talking to what he said, Shane Black or whatever, but if he was blowing Shane Black away with his idea or whatever, Shane Black might have read one scene of his script. And if it was amazing, he might have read more, you know, or if he pitched the concept in one sentence, right? You want to do little pieces, micro doses. And starting with, the last thing I'll say, then we got to move on, is your profile, social media profile. That should be a taste of your superpower. Have people that find out about you and say, oh, who's this guy? He's pretty interesting. They click over. Your banner photo is amazing. Your one sentence is like, gives you chills. Your profile photo is like, oh, this guy seems really cool and got it together. You see what I'm saying? It's like there's all sorts of opportunities for you to convey your superpower, right? Most people aren't aware of them. They don't think about these things. In my group, we all specialize on it so that we're all firing on all those pistons in all these different ways, from social media game to what the project you're choosing next, and everything in between.